I think you've been seduced by the bread and circuses.
Yeah.
This is throwing the peasants a little bit of entertainment to make them feel better, because things are really bleak. Things are really bleak for people who think like you and I, who are very, very worried about the future, who are worried about the state of society and the fact that we see it getting worse. So I'm disappointed in you, but you're not a lost cause.
No,
I would just, from my point of view, I have changed my mind about the royal family, but I've gone from a Republican who saw them as an inconsequential distraction to a Republican who actually sees them as a deeply pernicious influence in our society. Take your mental health point, for example. One of the chief causes of the mental health crisis is inequality.
Yeah, she's right.
Something which they entrench through their very presence. They represent inequality in corporeal form. They represent the tyranny of rank. They represent the lack of social mobility, which leads to hopelessness. And we have seen a deep mental health crisis. William Windsor standing up and saying, this mental health crisis is awful. We need to talk. No, we need to deal with inequality. And you are a symbol of that.
He is, isn't he? I mean, this is the point, because you rightly remind us of the institution rather than the individual. And it doesn't matter. So my argument that it's not the position, it's the occupant, that's just stupid.
It's not stupid, but
You're very kind.
The theatre.
It is quite stupid.
Theatre. You're not stupid.
No, I know I'm not stupid, but that was a stupid thing what I did.
But the theatre around them has convinced you that actually, he's an okay bloke, so maybe the institution is worth preserving. But if we believe in any kind of egalitarianism, or indeed if we believe in a secular society, we cannot possibly uphold this archaic, ridiculous institution.
And if you believe that your children have got as much right to the glittering prizes as his children, then you're ridiculous in supporting the institution. Oh,
we are.
Flipping heck, Sarah. I've got this weird... Go on, carry on.
My mother told me something when I was very, very young, and some people consider this cruel, okay, but it's actually informed how I think as an adult. And she told me that I was no more important than any other child in the world.
Yeah.
That she was responsible for me, but I was no more entitled to comfort or education or play or love than any other child in the world.
That's really beautiful.
We are all... It is really beautiful. Some people told me that was a really cruel thing to tell a child, but actually it's informed how I think, it's informed how I behave, and it's informed how I view each and every human being in the world. We should all be born equal, and the fact is, in this country, we are not.
And the royal family make it sugar-coated and digestible, whereas in fact, Sarah reminds us, it's pretty rank.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales. Today, we're diving into an eye-opening conversation that raises powerful questions about the monarchy's role in modern society. It's a topic that sparks debate. Do the royals represent tradition and stability, or are they a symbol of inequality that hinders progress? On a typical morning, amidst the lively airwaves of LBC radio, something extraordinary happened. The studio was buzzing with the usual energy, the hum of conversations, and the occasional burst of laughter. It was just another day, or so it seemed. James O'Brien, known for his incisive commentary and sharp wit, received a call. His voice, familiar to many, carried a tone of curiosity as he answered. On the other end was a woman named Sarah. Her voice was steady, yet there was an underlying intensity that hinted at the gravity of what she was about to say. Little did they know their conversation would spark a national debate about the very essence of British identity, the royal family. The symbols of tradition and continuity were about to be questioned in a way that had rarely been done before. Sarah, with a calm yet determined tone, dared to question the relevance and impact of the monarchy on modern Britain. Her words were not just a critique, but a call to re-evaluate long-held beliefs. Her words, sharp and poignant, pierced through the usual reverence surrounding the crown. She spoke with a clarity that made listeners sit up and take notice. She spoke of societal ills, like inequality and mental health struggles, issues that were often swept under the rug in favour of maintaining a polished image of national pride, and dared to draw a line connecting them to the very institution many held sacred. The juxtaposition of the opulence of the royal family and the stark realities faced by ordinary citizens was laid bare. The conversation was like a bolt from the blue, challenging the long-held assumptions about the royal family's place in society. It was a moment of reckoning, a call to question the unquestionable. Many listeners, accustomed to hushed tones of deference when discussing the monarchy, found themselves confronted with uncomfortable truths. The usual narrative was being disrupted, and it was impossible to ignore. Sarah's courage resonated with many who had silently grappled with similar thoughts. Her words gave voice to a silent majority who had long felt the same but had never dared to speak out. The conversation was not an attack, but a plea for introspection. It was a call to look within and question the status quo, to consider the real impact of maintaining such an institution in a modern, democratic society. It urged listeners to look beyond the pomp and ceremony and confront the real-world impact of having an unelected, hereditary head of state. The grandeur of royal events was contrasted with the everyday struggles of the people, making the conversation all the more poignant and necessary. The debate sparked by Sarah's call continued to ripple through communities, prompting discussions in homes, workplaces, and public forums. It was a moment that encouraged a nation to reflect on its values and the institutions it holds dear. As the conversation evolved, it became clear that this was not just about the monarchy, but about the kind of society Britain aspired to be. It was a call to action, a reminder that change begins with questioning, and that every voice, no matter how small, can make a difference. Central to Sarah's argument was the stark contrast between the royal family's lavish lifestyle and the struggles faced by ordinary Britons. The streets of Britain tell a different story, one of resilience and hardship. Prince Charles, heir to the throne, became a focal point. His public appearances often drew attention not just for his speeches, but for the opulence that surrounded him. His penchant for luxury, from his bespoke suits to his extensive travel arrangements, presented a jarring image against the backdrop of increasing poverty and economic hardship. Each tailored suit and private jet flight seemed to widen the gap between the monarchy and the people they were meant to represent. Sarah argued that this extravagance, symbolic of a wider system of privilege, reinforced a sense of inequality that permeated British society. The grandeur of Buckingham Palace and the royal carriages were not just symbols of history, but of a persistent divide. The opulent palaces, the sprawling estates, the dazzling jewels, all served as a constant reminder of the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. These symbols of wealth and power stood in stark contrast to the everyday lives of many Britons. While millions struggled to make ends meet, the royal family seemed to exist in a bubble of unimaginable wealth and comfort. The sight of a homeless person on a London street or a family in a modest home highlighted the disparity. This disparity, Sarah argued, was not just a matter of economics. It was a reflection of a deeper societal issue, one that questioned the very fabric of British society. It spoke to a deeper societal issue, the entrenched belief that some are simply born more deserving than others. The interactions between different social classes often revealed the underlying tensions and unspoken hierarchies. The monarchy, with its inherent hierarchy and reliance on lineage, became a potent symbol of this ingrained inequality. The coronation ceremonies and the royal balcony appearances were not just traditions, but reminders of a system that placed some above others by birthright alone. As Britons watched these events unfold, many couldn't help but question the relevance of such traditions in a modern society. The conversations in homes and public spaces often revolved around the need for change and the desire for a more equitable society. Protests and public outcries became more frequent, with signs demanding equality and an end to the monarchy's privileged status. The voices of dissent grew louder, calling for a re-evaluation of what the monarchy represented in contemporary Britain. The juxtaposition of historical footage of the monarchy with scenes of modern-day Britain highlighted the ongoing struggle between tradition and progress. The question remained, could the monarchy evolve to reflect the values of a changing society, or would it remain a relic of the past? The conversation took a poignant turn as Sarah touched upon the issue of mental health. She highlighted the immense pressure and scrutiny faced by members of the royal family. Constantly in the public eye, their every move dissected and judged. It was no wonder that some struggled with the weight of their royal responsibilities. The tragic death of Princess Diana, hounded relentlessly by the paparazzi, served as a stark reminder of the toll such intense scrutiny could take. Sarah argued that while the royal family often spoke about the importance of mental health awareness, their own actions sometimes contradicted their words. The rigid protocols, the relentless pursuit of perfection, and the suppression of individuality all seemed at odds with promoting genuine emotional well-being. Sarah suggested that perhaps a more humane and compassionate approach was needed, one that recognized the inherent challenges of living life under a microscope. One of the most striking phrases Sarah used during her call was the tyranny of rank. This phrase, though simple, carried a weight that was hard to ignore. It was a bold statement that challenged the very foundation of the British monarchy. This succinct yet powerful expression encapsulated the essence of her critique of the monarchy. It wasn't just a casual remark. It was a well-thought-out observation that highlighted the deep-seated issues within the system. Sarah's words were a call to examine the structures that uphold such a hierarchy. It spoke to the inherent power imbalance that exists in a system where status and privilege are determined by birthright, not merit or achievement. This imbalance is not just a relic of the past, but a present reality that continues to affect lives today. The idea that one's future could be dictated by the circumstances of their birth is a concept that many find increasingly difficult to accept in a modern meritocratic society. Sarah argued that this tyranny extended beyond the walls of Buckingham Palace, casting a long shadow over British society as a whole. It wasn't confined to the royal family, but permeated various aspects of daily life. From the workplace to social settings, the influence of rank and title could be felt everywhere, subtly dictating interactions and opportunities. She spoke of how this ingrained deference to titles and lineage could stifle ambition, limit opportunity, and perpetuate a culture of subservience. This deference wasn't just about respect. It was about an unspoken rule that certain people were inherently more deserving of power and privilege. This mindset could discourage individuals from striving for their full potential, knowing that their efforts might never be enough to overcome the barriers of rank. It created an environment where social mobility was hindered, and where individuals were often judged not by their character or accomplishments, but by their place in a hierarchical system over which they had no control. This lack of mobility meant that many talented and hard-working individuals were unable to rise above their given station, leading to a society where potential was wasted and inequality was perpetuated. Sarah's words resonated deeply with listeners who had experienced firsthand the limitations imposed by this invisible yet pervasive tyranny of rank. Her insight offered a voice to those who felt marginalized and overlooked, sparking a conversation about the need for change. It was a reminder that true progress requires not just the dismantling of old structures, but the creation of new ones that value merit and character above all else. So what do you think? Can the monarchy evolve to address these systemic issues, or is it time to question their place in a modern democracy? As always, we want to hear your thoughts, so leave your comments below. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Meghan and Harry Tales for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, remember, true equality begins with challenging the systems that stand in its way.